Alright, let's try this again. Hello there, people of the internet. How is everybody doing today? I'm doing alright. Thanks for asking. Not too terribly long ago, I made a video talking about why 223/556 was a really good option here in the United States. However, well, if that video is not up yet, then hey, it will be soon, so stay tuned for that one, I guess. But I figured that I'd go ahead, since I made that video and I gave my reasons as to why I made that video in that video. I recommend you go watch that. But I figured since I made that one, I'd go ahead and make this one. And this is why 762x39 would be a good idea for some people. As a matter of fact, it was such a good idea for myself for a good long while that was actually my go-to cartridge for in the event that something happened. That was, you know, my rifle was a 762x39 and it was an AK variant, and there was just what I was going to go to in the event that I needed to go to it. But there's a lot of pros to 762x39. I think that one of the biggest pros to 556/223 is just how lightweight it is, whereas something like 762x39 is going to be dramatically heavier. However, it is going to pack dramatically more of a punch. Now, if you are concerned about weight, I have two different firearms out here, and one of them is this SKS chambered in 762x39. If you are concerned about weight with your ammunition and your cartridges and whatnot, carrying around stripper clips for something like an SKS, although it is less advantageous in a actual battle type situation because you're operating on stripper clips in 10-round magazines as opposed to external 30-round magazines, although it is less advantageous, it's also going to equate to significantly less weight. I made a video not too terribly long ago talking about that, and I'm not going to go through all the math and whatnot simply because I cannot remember what it was. But I do remember that you can carry another 50 rounds of ammunition for the SKS to get the same weight as a 150 round loadout for the AK if you use polymer mags. So polymer mags for the AK, you can carry 150 rounds for X amount of weight. I can't remember how much it was. And you can carry 200 rounds of ammunition in SKS stripper clips to equate to the same amount of weight. So if you do want to cut weight costs, you can go ahead and just get yourself a 762x39 platform that accepts SKS stripper clips. Now, that being said, they're still going to be heavier than something like a 223 or a 556. A 556 tends to be around 55 grain to 62 grain projectiles. And a 762x39, bumping up from a 22 caliber bullet to a 30 caliber bullet, those tend to be about twice the weight. However, well, there's been significantly, what am I trying to say here? There's been a significant number of reports of people who have used 556/223 in some sort of defensive encounter or some sort of situation. I've seen several examples of both military and law enforcement using 556/223 ammunition, and more often than not, they will send more than one round downrange, or it takes more than one round to stop a threat, especially considering in the heat of the moment, shot placement is not necessarily going to be the best option. You're just not necessarily going to be something that you're going to be able to pull off, especially, like I said, if you are dealing with a heat in the moment situation. However, that being said, if you are going to send more than one round downrange at a time in order to stop your target, if it takes multiple shots from a 223/556 to stop your target, why carry more ammunition when something heavy like a 762x39, especially if it's a 762x39 soft point, will deliver more energy onto that target and stop it with one round, as opposed to having to take 2 or 3 rounds from a 556 to be able to take it down. Now, of course, you can take something down with one round of 556, especially with proper shot placement, but 762x39 just has a dramatic amount more energy that it puts onto its target. And that right there is one of the main reasons why I was leaning into 762x39 as opposed to something like 556 for a very long time. Now, I got myself a much, much, much better 556 rifle, so that's definitely what I'm going with now, and I'm going with a much, much better projectile. Whenever you're talking 556, if you want to go with something that you know is going to be very effective, you can bump up your bullet weight to 75, 80 grain projectiles, potentially even heavier, and those heavier 556 cartridges just do an absolute number on softer targets. Now, that being said, if you're going to go with heavier weight ammunition, then you're kind of losing the battle with lighter weight ammunition because you're going with heavier weight ammunition because the projectiles are going to be heavier. Now, it's still not going to be quite as heavy as something like 762x39, but it's also still not going to be as effective or as potent of a round. So you still have those trade-offs even if you are going with the lighter weight ammunition. So I guess it all boils down to what it is that you want. But if you want more power, then 7.62 by 39 is a very, very good way to go. The next step up from that in terms of very common caliber and cartridges is something like 7.62 NATO or 308 ammunition. There's probably going to be the next big step up for your very common calibers here in the United States. Now, if you bump up to 7.62 NATO, you are talking a very powerful round. You're talking 150 grain projectile traveling about 2,800 feet per second. That is a full power cartridge. That mimics M2 ball 30-06 ammunition. That is substantially more powerful than 7.62 by 39, which is a 120-ish, 130-ish grain bullet traveling at about 2,500 or so feet per second, depending on the barrel length it is that you're actually firing it from. But 7.62 NATO is a significant step up above 7.62 by 39. But 7.62 by 39 is a significant step up from 5.56. So if you don't want to carry around the significant added weight and power of the 7.62 NATO round, then you can go ahead and find the good Goldilocks area of 7.62 by 39. Now with that 7.62 by 39, it's not all that effective out at very long ranges. I'd say out to about 400 yards is what most people would be able to effectively use it at. However, that being said, most of what you're going to encounter is going to be within that 400 yards. You can engage in distances longer than that with 7.62 by 39, but the average Joe, myself included, would not take on anything beyond that 400 yards, and 7.62 by 39 is very capable out at that distance. With practice and training, you could be very effective with it out to 600 or 700 yards. Now, that being said, windage, deflection, and bullet drop and whatnot is very significant with 7.62 by 39 out at those long distances, but most people aren't going to be engaging at those long distances. If you are focused on taking on something at greater range, then maybe you might want to bump yourself up to something a little bit heavier like the 7.62 NATO cartridge. So those right there are probably going to be the primary pros of the 7.62 by 39. However, that being said, that's not necessarily the only pro. Even though it is heavier, it does pack more of a punch, so you can take out your target significantly faster. If you hit something with a 7.62 by 39, which we will see here in a second, I got 2 water jugs out there. If you hit something with 7.62 by 39, it should be a noticeable difference in comparison to hitting it with a 5.56. We're going to go ahead and compare those right there. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to send a couple of rounds down range. One of the trade-offs with a more powerful round is you have more added recoil into your rifle. However, 7.62 by 39 does not have a whole lot of recoil behind it, especially in comparison to the amount of power that you get out of the cartridge. It is not the same as comparing 7.62 by 39 to something like 308 or 7.62 NATO. That right there is a much, much more powerful, much harsher recoiling round than 7.62 by 39. So you are going to have pros and you're going to have cons. If you don't mind a little bit more recoil, and I mean, if you get yourself a heavy rifle or a rifle that has a nice butt pad on it, a nice rubber butt pad or something like that, or something that has a nice recoil system to really absorb a lot of the recoil that is felt, then you can get yourself some pretty fast follow-up shots with 7.62 by 39. So, lots of pros, lots of cons. Here in the U.S., ammo availability for 7.62 by 39 is pretty good, but not nearly as good as something like 5.56, and that's one of the main reasons why I lean towards 5.56, just because that's what U.S. forces and NATO are currently using. Now, U.S. is looking at a 6.8 caliber round, or 6.8 millimeter round, and if they adopt that, who knows what's going to happen with 5.56. That's in the future, though, and we're talking right now, this is mid-year 2023. So I'm going to actually go ahead and just send a couple of rounds down at the steel. This is Full Metal Jacket 7.62 by 39. And let's compare it to some Full Metal Jacket 5.56 rounds. Alright, that was 4 rounds. That's a lot of power going down range. Just smoke and debris and whatnot flying all over the place down there. Whereas something like this right here, here's our 5.56. This right here is going to have significantly less recoil, but it's also going to have significantly less power downrange. Let's see what this does. Oh yeah, the amount of smoke and debris and whatnot was significantly less with the 5.56. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and load up a round of 5.56 and 7.62 NATO into these rifles right here, and we are going to go ahead and send a round at the water jugs here, and we're going to go ahead and just pay attention to what kind of results we get with that. So this is the same exact rounds that we just fired. This right here is our 7.62 NATO from an SKS going at the right water jug. All right, that was pretty cool. And this right here is the 223-556 from our Ruger Mini 14 going at our left water jug. Let's send around. All right, well, let me go ahead and check that out. I'll go grab those and we'll compare them. Okay, very, very interesting results. I was expecting a bigger difference between the two. There's a considerable difference, don't get me wrong, but I was expecting a bigger difference. This right here is our 5.56 one, and that right there is quite a deal of energy, and that should be enough to be able to stop your target, but question is, will it stop it immediately, or will you have to use more than one round? And if you're going to use more than one round on your target, why not just use a 7.62x39 so you can use one round on your target, or maybe you only get one hit. Wouldn't it be best to have more energy put onto that target? Because this right here is a significantly wider gaping hole than the 223-556 round. And a lot of that has to do with just the weight of the projectile. Although the 223-556 is traveling faster, it's only traveling approximately 500 to 600 feet faster, as opposed to having twice the weight of a 7.62x39, twice the weight projectile like the 7.62x39 does. So ultimately, that decision is going to be up to you and what it is that you decide to run. Most people are going to end up running 5.56/223, myself included. I have the hiccups. I am sorry about that, guys. It's just something that happens whenever I talk a bunch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this test. I know I sure enjoyed it. And I'll be honest, shooting these water jugs never gets old. I like hitting them with really powerful cartridges, though. Ones that, like, completely disintegrate these upon impact. Okay, folks, I do appreciate your time. Thank you ever so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and do the outro now. We have, what are you? I don't like that because I can't identify it. It's flying away, though. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and go check that out. You guys go off, have a fantastic day. I'm going to go ahead and take care of this, take care of those, and take care of these. I got to bring my guns back in. So I'll see y'all in the next episode. Hopefully I can get a little bit more done before it starts to rain, because it looks like we have some weather coming in. Fingers crossed I don't have to deal with that. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.